2017 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. The commission is appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and we are to implement the rules and regulations of the State Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Milton Town bylaw, which governs the wetland resources. As a matter of formality, we actually only have two rules. One is that if you address the commission, we'd ask that you identify yourself, because we have a recorder that is on, and we take that for the public open meeting law. And the second matter of formality, we introduce ourselves.
Judith Darrell Kemp.
My name's John Kiernan.
Arthur Doyle.
Ingrid Beatty. Kathy Bowen.
First on the agenda is notice of intent, 34 Apple Lane. Anyone here? Thank you very much. If you could come forward and use one of the mics, and if you have a presentation, we've got easels or whatever you want.
I think it was an RDA, I believe.
Okay. An RDA and not a notice of intent.
Yes.
If I can get it on, yeah. The word now? I'll give you this. Just as a backup. Okay, good, thanks. Thanks, all right, we're ready.
All right, I don't know if you, does everyone has a copy of everything? I haven't done this before, but, so Matt Varel, who actually, he must be stuck in traffic. He was supposed to come help me. He's a wetlands, a scientist, and he helped me kind of put the RDA together. I have a map in front of you.
And who are you? Did you?
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
Did you say who you are?
Oh, sorry, my name is Regis Gardiganis, and I'm the owner of 34 Apple Lane, the house, 34 Apple Lane.
Did you just buy it?
A couple years ago, yep, 2013. And so, I don't know if you can, if you reference the map that you should, everyone should have a copy, but there's a, on the back right corner, we're trying to do a small one-room addition to our current home. It's
We're
right,
down Apple Lane, you left, right?
if you go down Apple Lane, if you go all the way to the last home, we're on the left-hand side.
Okay.
So between us and that home that you see coming straight down, there's a piece of wetlands area right, kind of that back corner. And that behind, to the back and to the right of the garage that we're looking to do that one-room addition, it falls right within the 100-foot wetlands protected area.
Okay.
And you'll see, I think it'll encroach somewhere between 15 and 20 feet, I believe, on the actual property. And they help, the person that had helped me put this together, they have the barrier fencing, so that if, whenever we need to do any construction, we'll set up all the bale fencing to kind of help with the water erosion, so that it doesn't get any closer to the wetlands area.
Can you add that to the,
It should be there, you should see the, it looks almost like a wall around the area that I have. The gray area is the one-room addition, and kind of surrounding it is the,
oh, I see, okay. I thought that was the whole footprint, but the footprint is just the dark gray?
the one room that we're gonna be adding, correct.
Okay.
And that kind of arcing line is the 100-foot barrier,
Right.
and so
You're
we're
not
gonna-
gonna put impervious beyond,
just the gray is gonna be the actual footprint of the room that we're gonna be adding.
yeah.
And
no,
that kind of
no,
starred area around it is the bale that we're gonna,
right.
the fencing that we're gonna put to help kind of protect around that. And there's kind of an explanation on the top left-hand corner of what we were gonna plan on putting as sort of bale fencing or a straw bale barrier. Yeah, like a visual at the top left,
Right.
yeah.
Makes good sense. I think we need a site walk, and it's got really very little to do with what you're planning. But it does have a lot to do with where the wetland flags are sited, because once we site them, they're good for 3 years, and you may come back and want to build a McDonald's drive-through or something. So we have to make sure and take a look at the placement of the flags.
Okay.
It won't take long. What's your building construction plan? When are you looking to be done?
We're still kind of getting estimates,
Okay.
so we don't have a finalized date as to when we would be starting after that.
All right. One of the issues that we always have to address with a contract is that we don't allow them to store equipment within the 100-foot buffer.
Okay.
So, and a lot of contractors just, don't think of it. They'll park their trucks or they'll try to refuel their trucks. That's a problem for us because a lot of the equipment that they may be using,
Yep.
like a backhoe or some kind of a bobcat,
Yep.
they have hydraulic lines. And we have we call it a boilerplate, which is just sort of a standard condition that if they're there overnight, they have to park them outside of our 100-foot buffer. But it looks like you can do that because your
Yeah, and I have a
driveway's
decent,
outside.
decent length driveway, yep, I can do as well.
So it should not be a problem for you.
No, yeah, for us, we can even get around them if they park in the driveway the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any questions from commissioners? Nothing? Judith? Any abutters, members of the public that have a question or comment? What does the calendar look like for?
This
Well,
week is the 17th, 24th, and July 1st.
you available?
I'm not available till July 1st.
Okay, July 1st?
I'll take a look.
July 1st.
What's that?
That's 3 days later. That's 3 days later.
4-day weekend.
I can do this Saturday.
I can't do July 1, John.
Okay.
Hans can do this Saturday also.
Hans can do this Saturday?
I can't do July 1st either.
Okay. So how about this Saturday?
I can't, no.
Okay, I can do it. Can you, Arthur?
I'll check right now.
Okay. Yes,
When's the tall ships?
they just came in today, I think.
9 to,
Saturday or
Two.
Sunday?
Saturday, there's a parade.
My son has me.
They're in the parade?
But I
But wait, the parade's, I mean, the good stuff is gonna be after 10 anyway. You're not
Do we have
gonna
anything
that?
else for a site walk?
I don't believe so.
This won't take long. We just have to verify.
Yeah,
The lines?
Saturday, you can be done. Cause I was thinking about going to it as well.
Is Hans available that day, Kathy?
Yes.
1, 2, are you, Judith?
No, she's not.
I am not till the 1st.
I'll check on the schedules and let you know. I can't,
Okay.
What about the
because it's a
24th?
family thing.
Are you available the
24th,
24th?
I am not available on the 24th. I'm not.
No, I'm
available
not
on the
either.
24th.
I'm away.
I am. What else am I gonna do?
Han Solo. Aye.
So, two are not available for the, and ladies and gentlemen, the reason we're struggling with this, we need a quorum. And that's why, because we want to be able to vote right there, so you don't have to wait any longer.
Okay, that was gonna be my question, so you would show up there and then you would.
Yes, it's a
hopefully
public
do vote.
meeting, we can vote, but we just need to verify, because once we verify the line, it actually may impact somebody else. Somebody else on Apple or even off of Blue Hill Avenue, because I know there's a long driveway that goes up the back of your
Yeah.
house.
I can get back to you tomorrow morning on the 17th.
I'm available on the 8th as well, if we want to go
I
that far
can't
out.
do the 8th.
Okay.
I'm pretty much shot. I can't do the 8th, I can't do the 15th.
July 8th?
Did Hans give you any other dates?
No.
Just this week, okay.
I'm
So,
okay. I'm
we've-
okay July 8th as well.
We've got 5, so we need 3. Right? I know we have an issue with the quorum. All right, so how many can do the 17th?
I can do the 17th.
2 in Hans, so that's 3. How many can do the 24th? Okay, that doesn't make it. How many can do the 1st?
do
How
the
many can do the 8th?
I can do the 8th.
I could do the 8th.
All right. So, we don't know about Hans. We may have to go until the 8th. I just worry about a quorum. We
Okay.
need to vote.
Yep,
And if we don't have the quorum, we can't vote, and I don't want to delay you.
okay.
So
the
4 of
8th?
us can do the 8th, all 4?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
okay,
Wait. The 24th?
yes.
I can move something around and I can maybe do the 24th. Will that help?
I can do the 24th, you can, anybody else? and we don't know about Hans, so no. I think
Okay,
the
so that doesn't
safest,
help. That
the
doesn't
safest is July 8th,
help. Okay,
all right?
the 8th I definitely cannot do.
And I don't see any issues here. It looks like a good plan.
Okay.
And you've got the limit of work with the silt barrier, it looks appropriate. I told you about our general conditions, so we just have to verify the lines. Do you have a wetland scientist that is available? And what is it? Is it, are there clean lines of demarcation, or is it?
It's been flagged, is that what you're?
Yes, that's what it's
Yep,
called.
so there'll be
Yeah.
there's pink flags in the woods there.
Right, but the reason I'm asking you, if it's, if you can't really see, like top of bank is easy, I mean, anybody can see it. If it's a soil, based delineation or a foliage-based delineation, it gets a little bit, discretionary. And sometimes we ask the scientists to be there to take like a soil sample, they come with an auger, and they
Okay.
just get out and show us the soil. And that's the way we verify it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to complicate it, but if you could have your wetland scientist there, it would be very helpful for us.
When is it usually on the 8th? What time is it?
8 o'clock in the morning,
8
8
a.m.
o'clock on Saturday morning. And it won't take long. I can't imagine being there more than 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
Okay. And he was on his way, but I think he probably just got caught up in the traffic.
The traffic is tough because of
Yeah, I
the
know
road
with
race.
the race, I know, I mentioned to him before, but, I'll check with him, I mean, I can, should I just get back to you guys if?
If you can call Kathy,
Okay.
she's the easiest. Do you have her number?
Yeah, it's on the website, if not, it's on the website, yeah.
I can let you know tomorrow morning about the 17th.
About this Saturday? Is that the 17th? Okay.
Well, the only thing is, we need time to, because it is a public meeting, we have to
Yeah,
have, what,
do it,
48 hours
right.
notice?
Yeah,
So,
So you'd have that.
but that's, how many can make the 17th?
I can make the 17th.
That's 3 and
Or
Hans.
maybe.
That's 4. All right, so watch or call Kathy, because if we can make it sooner for you,
Okay.
it would be good for everybody.
So how about I'll call you tomorrow,
okay.
because then by then you'll know if
Right.
we have enough for the 17th, if not, July 8th.
Correct. And we'll have to post it immediately so that we make the 48-hour public meeting notice.
Okay.
Okay? That's great. Thank you very much. And we should be able to move through this pretty quickly. All right, any other questions you have?
I do not know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is 693 711 Randolph Avenue. Continued hearing. You get credit for coming, though. You get credit. All right, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Jim Burke with DeSalle Burke and Associates. I'm here tonight with Paul Holland. He's our client for 711 Randolph Ave for a residential project over there, currently under litigation. So you asked him to appear, and here he is.
And actually, Mr. Holland, thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
Because I think one of the commissioners suggested, and we all agreed, that it would be good to inform the public as to what the status of it is, because we've been continuing this for a long time. A long time. So can you just get us up to date as to what's going on?
Sure. The hearing before the HAC happened in early April, and
What's the HAC?
the Housing Appeals Commission. And the town requested and received an extension on the post-trial briefs, so now those are due in mid-August. So at that point.
Mid-August.
Mid-August, yes. So once the briefs are in, then we're just waiting for a decision from the hearing officer. So I think they can make their decision, as little as a few months, or, I don't know what the long end.
Okay, so that's the procedural information, but what about substantively? Who is asking for what? What are the two sides of the design?
Well, the town approved a 35-unit project. I had applied for and submitted with you folks as well as them for a 90-unit project. So
And the town approved 35 units.
that's correct.
Okay.
So the,
You know these questions are for the public benefit.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
We know this, Paul, but I
Yeah, no,
appreciate it.
no problem. So there's a significant difference between what the town approved and what I had asked for. So the HAC is going to make a decision what's appropriate.
All right, and then depending upon what the decision is, you'll come back to us and we'll seek some clarity on what we can do and consider your application.
We'll continue the permitting at that point,
All right.
with you guys.
So the timeline was, will we hearing something in the vicinity of October?
I actually submitted a letter to Kathy already today anticipating and asking for an extension until September.
Okay.
So, you'll see my smiling face once again in September. Perhaps with, Paul will be deciding if there's information, otherwise it'll ask for an extension until October.
Perfect. So we'll put it on for September. Are there any abutters that would like to ask a question or be heard? Or members of the public, citizens? Any comments? Any further questions from the commission?
Jim, did you say you submitted a letter today?
Yes.
Do we have copies? Oh, okay.
No, there was no comment.
That'll go into the file. That's for the public benefit. That's a written request for an extension, which helps
Till
us
September, okay.
procedurally. Good. All right, thank you very much. It is a courtesy for you to come in and make that explanation. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next time, so, okay. You want to stick around? All right.
The next on the agenda, number 3, is request for certificate of compliance, 333 Hillside Street. This is a continued hearing. Mr. Ivas, thank you, sir.
Certainly.
Just to get the public up to date, we actually did the commission did a site walk a couple of weeks ago in response to the homeowner's request for a certificate of compliance. And the engineering report suggested that there were several differences between what we approved and what was built. So we have an approved plan, and then we have an as-built plan, and they didn't match. So we went out to take a look at the differences that we saw. One of them, I think critical for us, was that the driveway was moved when constructed and went through a portion of an identified wetland, which normally would require A, approval, and B, it does require some kind of replication. So in our wisdom, we found somebody wiser than us, and that's Mr. Ivas. He is our consultant, paid for by the applicant, but you're here to advise us, Mr. Ivas, and can you tell us what you know?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Steve Ivas for Ivas Environmental. I went down through the discrepancies noted in the engineering report, and I think you should probably go through them one by one, perhaps?
Let's do that.
Would that be the best thing to do?
It is indeed.
Good, okay. And number one, the engineering report says, quote unquote, an encroachment of approximately 2 feet of driveway extends into an isolated vegetated wetland area, flagged by Ecotech in 2012. What I didn't understand was how much of the driveway was in there. You said 2 feet in, but how long?
Yep.
That's the first question I have for you, okay? Can you just estimate?
I can get you a square footage.
Okay, fine, so you'll do that. Take that as an action item, right?
It is, but that was previously an action item, because when we were there, we needed to have the square footage so we could determine, how much replication would take place. And then we needed your assistance in where should that replication take place. So you'll work on the square feet?
Steve and I, we discussed the project, 2 or 3 times
On the phone,
on the
right?
phone, really, what we wanted to do was meet on site, and I was trying to get Scott Morrison on site as well, to kind of go through these, and that event just didn't happen. So, talking with Steve earlier tonight, when I saw him, that's what we're still continuing to do, because I'd rather have the wetlands guys get together, discuss the value of this wetland, why it was flagged, what needs to be replicated, and how much. I mean, the how much is pretty easy to establish, because my plan shows the encroachment, and
And the big question is, where is the most appropriate spot?
exactly, and that's where I want these guys to discuss. I mean,
But we need to know how much first.
Exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
that's the
How much
threshold
and-
question.
Right. Right.
What's that called? A decision tree question? That's the decision tree question we're at right now. Okay? How much first? And then I'll be happy to go out with Mr. Morrison. I've dealt with him before. We'd be happy to go out together. There's still some money in the kitty.
Good.
Okay?
Good.
So we'll take care of that one. The width of the driveway was actually compressed to 12 feet. That's number two. Frankly, for my purposes, my thinking, that's a good thing, because there's less stormwater heading down the road. For the audience and for the members, you saw how much of a grade that is. There's a 13% grade, I think,
Yes.
somewhere in
It's,
that.
it's pretty steep when you get
Yeah.
towards the house.
Yeah.
right?
Can we back up for just a second? Don't we know the length? Isn't it on the previous plan?
Length of the driveway?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yes,
Okay,
but
so
we're looking
two
for the,
by-
we-
the fraction of it that is relevant to the wetland. That's what we don't know.
right, I do not know that.
What's,
that
what you
number.
mean the
Okay.
encroachment into?
Right.
Yes.
It's easily calculable.
Right,
Yes.
right, right.
Yes, it is.
No, I thought it was ascertainable.
And I apologize, I should have had that number for you tonight.
That was my question.
Well, one of the points that we saw when we were there was that we appreciated, as you do, that they made the driveway narrower. But that called into question, well, then why'd you move the driveway so much? Because not only does it encroach 2 feet into the wetlands, it probably encroaches more. Because, I mean, the driveway was moved more than 2 feet.
Yes.
Because they shrunk it first, then they moved it.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that needs to be established too, and now that I think about the way it was discussed at the field, is that I showed the edge of pavement in the wetland. That doesn't take into account the grading the shoulder of
Correct.
the driveway.
Exactly.
So that needs to be established as
Exactly.
well.
That's right, and that's what I was
It's
going
down,
to discuss
so-
with Mr. Morris in the field. Exactly
He
how
does
much,
show
really,
there in the
because you've got that bank coming up,
Right.
Right.
so
And
there
that would
is-
go towards the replication.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct. And maybe I should understand what you would prefer as a ratio for the replication here. Are you at 2 to 1 in this town these days?
We don't know. I don't think, we've bounced around. We've been
Yeah.
higher than 1 to 1,
Yeah.
but I don't think we have a,
A
you
policy.
come back and tell us you're not being uniform, but we need to be as consistent as possible.
I agree, but also take into account.
They missed by a mile
How
on this one.
egregiously they missed it.
right,
It
that's
wasn't
true.
like, whoops, a foot or two, so, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of a consideration this is, because it's not, I mean, this pocket had wetland characteristics. Are we looking to produce that exact type of kettle hole design? Or are we looking to maybe provide something a little bit more valuable?
That's a technical question we need to actually deal with in the field, based on
Right.
what's available to work with in the field, I think, more than anything else, Mr. Chairman and members.
No, I agree, and that's why we wanted you.
And we can address that in the field, I think, best, Jim,
I
okay?
agree.
Okay, just FYI. So in any case, back to the contraction of the driveway to 12 feet. I think that's a good thing, as long as it's large enough for emergency vehicles to access,
Right.
okay? Number 3 was,
Just one second. Jim, why was it made more narrowed? Have you any idea?
I honestly don't, I mean, I'm not sure if it was, I don't know why the driveway moved. We, staked the driveway originally, and then we came back out and as-built it. So, we didn't watch it go in. So, I couldn't tell you why it moved. The contractor, who you met out the sidewalk, he does not provide a fairly good answer of why it's in the location it's in.
It's not straight either,
Yeah,
by a lot, it's not straight.
No, I was by there today and I looked at it again and you're absolutely right. It dog legs, just, and then goes down, even though it's narrower.
that's correct.
It could be,
So is that
you know,
adequate for
and
fire vehicles?
as Judith pointed out before, observing it on the edge of the pavement, you can see the gravel box that's underneath the driveway. The guy doing the paving, it's quite possible he didn't have any idea where he was. It is my guess that that's probably the case. He just came down with a 12-foot wide stripe and went right down and pulled the pavement, or actually pulled up.
Without an engineer on site.
No, I doubt it.
Whatever was.
That's what it
easiest.
looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my
And
best
in
guess.
addition, you have to add the sort of the paved berm around the.
Around the catch basin.
Yes.
Right.
And that makes it even stranger.
Yes, indeed it does.
We want to footnote your comment about emergency vehicles, which is well taken as well,
Yes.
because ultimately there's going to be a turnaround factor.
Yes, and we're addressing that later.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
I saw that, and I
I've
just
had a
didn't
chat
want
with
this-
the fire chief and the
We're
town
on it.
planner.
Yeah, I want to make sure the two remain connected.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
So the width and the turnaround.
Right, right. He didn't comment, I will say right now, he did not comment on the width,
The width?
but he did comment on the turnaround.
Good.
Okay, so. I believe 12 feet is wide enough for most vehicles, most emergency.
Emergency vehicle's 8 feet wide,
Exactly,
and actually it's 42 feet long.
right.
Thanks, Paul.
To get around other buildings is
I
what you're
just
saying.
happened to know the length of
Okay,
the truck because of another project.
thank you.
But not for a turnaround.
Right. Well, then, yes.
So we should go on to number 3. The eastern side of the driveway now, for at least half its length, is now crushed stone along the driveway edge, instead of a swale. I did not know what the policy of the commission was. So you may wish the grassy swale back in?
Oh, it's in the order of conditions.
Exactly,
It says grass swale.
right. That's right, that's exactly correct.
So that's what we want.
So, very good, okay, so
Okay.
there we are. You've heard.
Well, I spoke, but that's based upon conversations we had on site. Does everybody
Oh,
agree with that?
definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Take
Fine.
up the stones.
Okay.
Oh, well, are you going to pick them up, or do you still have a
But
basis?
personally, I think you'd have to, you'd have to get rid of the stone and come in
Yeah.
with 6 inches of loam.
And
Or else you're
I'd
going to
probably leave the
overrun the
stone.
driveway if you
If
put.
you're gonna leave some of the stone, I don't know what the depth is of the stone. But you'd probably need some sort of fabric to make sure that the silt isn't lost in the stone.
One of my concerns
necessarily.
with the driveway, where it goes next to Mr.
Martin, I think it is. Is it Martin or Dean?
Dean,
Yes.
Martin Dean.
Martin Dean,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes,
On
yes.
his, on
right.
his side, this is not from an engineering perspective, but it really looks to me like that driveway's gonna break down, because there's no edge.
The contractor said he'd take care of that, and make sure that's,
Meaning what? I mean, is he gonna put a grade into the, because there's wetlands on that side, too.
right. And, it requires to regrade that particular area. With,
It may
with
be
the
more
policy.
useful to actually create some sort of a barrier, a wall of some sort, a retaining wall, rather than a grade in that location.
You may be right, because the grade's gonna go right into the wetlands.
Exactly.
We'll have to see what the encroachment is with regards to where that particular driveway is, if we have any room to create a shoulder, a stabilized shoulder in that location,
Well,
so.
hold on a second. But Steve, what are you recommending? What are you saying would be the best?
You may wish a retaining wall there, instead of, that'll save you a lot of space, because the grade drop is very quick right there into the
Yeah, we
wetlands.
noticed.
It is,
Yeah, it is.
That's what I think, and I would rather see some sort of retaining wall, whether it be boulders or, one of the retaining wall systems. It might be useful right there, and I'd like to talk with Mr. Morrison in the field about that. I think
Okay.
that's another one of the things that we can come back to you.
And this is on Mr. Dean's side. Is that
Right,
all the
right.
way along?
Not all the
No,
way
it's-
along, basically back to his, that's just.
From his driveway back to Hillside
Exactly.
Street.
Right.
That's exactly correct, yeah, hillside to his
Where
driveway.
the small gravel was that we saw.
That is exactly correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I'd like to talk with Mr. Morrison about that and maybe come back with you with a recommendation,
Sounds good.
Okay.
okay? So the core logs, getting back to the driveway swale, you may need to create a couple of small berms in the
Right.
driveway
That was the whole
swale.
point of the coil locks, is to basically step it down,
Right,
to
but
prevent erosion.
you may want to do that with a soil. I don't
Right.
wish to get into the weeds too far tonight, but I just wanted to have that discussion, preliminary discussion.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Sure.
Okay, but are you using weeds metaphorically? Or what do you
Metaphorically.
mean? Okay. All right.
Invasive weeds.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Good enough.
Sorry, the detail, I should
All
say, okay? Hydrants,
they're on, away from the wetlands.
right. They're fine,
I
I
know.
think.
It's just shocking how no one looked at the engineering
At the
plans.
plan, right.
Your plans, right? They don't pay attention.
I'm kind of used to it, so.
So are we.
Right. Number 6, paved swale around the catch basin to catch some stormwater. I think it was just fine. It's just placed into the wetland a little further than we expected, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so, there's a wetland impact from the catch basin itself and the paved swale around it.
Because it's paved, does that mean it's going to go over the top?
Because it's paved, it's gonna be impervious surface into the catch basin. It's not necessarily go over the top, no,
We had a
it's-
concern, because when we were there was a lot of gravel on the
That
driveway.
was a washout from the neighbor.
Well, that was,
That's
that
what
that
they
was the
said.
question. They
No
suggested
problem.
it came from
That's what
Martin
they
Dean's
suggested.
driveway, as opposed to coming down from Hillside
Oh,
Street.
really?
When he was snow plowing his driveway, he'd take his
No,
drive.
we thought it was washout.
It
We
was
thought
just-
it was
yeah.
flow washout.
So
and
it's
the neighbor
recent.
Or the
Oh, it was really clearly
contractor
there when we were there, within the last
thought-
month.
suggested that it was plow-driven gravel.
I did not see it when I was there about 3 weeks ago.
It was the same
Swept it up,
stone.
yeah.
It was.
Same stone coming
Right by
from the...
that
driveway, it was the
paved
driveway stone.
swale.
Okay, so,
I sampled both.
Yeah, keep an eye on that.
But I want to ask you a question about this point that you have on the table now. Is that because there's too much pavement around the catch basin?
well, there's more than there was designed.
That's the point, that's right.
That's the
That's the
point.
answer I'm looking for.
Right.
So do we add that into the square
And
footage
they
for?
don't need, I'm sorry,
No,
too.
you keep going.
They don't need as much as is there from your point of view in order to catch
Well,
the water?
they didn't design it that way it was constructed. That's all I can
They didn't
say.
construct it the way it was designed?
That's correct, right,
Okay.
right. Okay,
But would there be any benefit to making that less of a paved berm and making it a soil berm so that there'd be more absorptive capacity? You'd still have the runoff going back towards the catch basin, but...
You mean take out some of the pavement?
Yes, yes. Is there any benefit to that? You'd still have the elevation,
yes, you could. I think you could do that. You could take out,
but is it a good idea? Is there a benefit from that?
there's a great benefit if you can improve your amount of impervious surface, decrease your impervious surface, always a benefit, in my mind.
So John, my question is the height of that,
Of the
Of the berm?
berm
yeah, of
around
the
that catch basin?
swale and the catch basin because
Right.
of that washout that we saw. We still don't know whether that washout really was paved gravel or, runoff driven gravel.
And there is a.
Oh, I agree with
Remember
you.
that?
Right.
Right? So the question in my mind is
There's
the
a-
height.
There's a 6-inch at least
Exactly.
difference between the top of the berm of the catch basin and the gravel right
And the road.
adjacent.
And the road.
And the
Oh,
road.
at least that.
Yes,
Right,
absolutely.
So that, to me,
Good-
that's a
good
more
point.
important question, rather than the
Good
impervious
point.
surface around that catch basin, is the height of the catch basin relative,
Of the berm?
right?
Exactly, exactly. So was the catch basin put at the correct elevation? I do not know.
I want to say it's certainly close, but, it's,
Is that an engineering term?
well, as you guys talk about the
Technically
berm and stuff, I worry about the hydraulics of it. I want to make sure that the roadway
Exactly.
itself drains
Drains.
properly. I don't want it spilling over the top. I don't want the washout of the rock. I want a fairly controlled flow into the catch basin, so it's treated and discharged properly. So,
Can you do that? Can you do those calculations? Because right now, I'm concerned with the elevation of the driveway. I don't know if it's up or down from where it was planned.
the plan will show that. And again, I apologize. I was expecting really just to go over Steve's stuff. I should have brought the plan with me with the approved plans. And I know where the elevation of that invert is, I know where the elevation of the rim is in comparison to what was proposed. I just don't have that information with me. But I do know that the additional berm in back of it, the pavement, was installed to prevent any sort of crossover from the water spill into the back and running over the catch basin and not being captured. There are other methodologies to do that, and earth berm is certainly one of them. A hard berm, a curb, is certainly another one. So I think, oh, thank you.
Certainly. Difficult to see at that size, really difficult to see.
So 159.25 is the rim for the proposed water quality inlet.
And that was,
Well,
that
look,
was,
if you are both going to be on site at
Yes.
some point, maybe you can get that data for us.
Yeah.
And also then, between the two of you, decide on the best course of action. Would that make sense, Steve,
yes, it
to
would.
do it that way? Why don't you do it that way?
Yeah.
Rather than try to.
Taking up all your
again,
time
get into
tonight,
the-
Exactly,
Steve and I have a
yeah.
lot of work to do, and
Okay.
mostly me.
So you'll get that data for us and then decide on the best design to fix the situation.
Good.
Yeah, one of the issues that I had is whether or not what we saw as gravel runoff, if that's what we saw, so I'm sure there's a lot of sand going in, that really is going to affect the O&M plan.
You know, the thing is, if it is coming from the swale, the stone, it's going to be consistent through the summer and not just related to the winter. So if it's not there now, and if it shows up later, then we know it's coming from the swale. If it doesn't show up all summer long, I guess it's part of the snow. Because that's how it was explained in the field.
Makes sense, because, I mean, those
We had a decent amount of rainfall, too.
Exactly.
inch
So,
and a half, yeah.
I can't tell you when it was cleaned up, though. So we'll keep an eye on that as well.
Okay. We'll go on to number 7,
Yes.
additional outlet. Why was there additional outlet there?
The additional outlet came from the, you mean at the culvert?
At the catch basin.
Catch basin.
structure.
It's the one that for some reason they placed inside our jurisdiction. They didn't have to.
Oh,
If
that.
they wanted to add one, they could have put it outside of our jurisdiction, but they put it inside. our
Yeah, I'm
jurisdiction.
not, I'd be honest with you, I don't know why it's there, because it doesn't capture anything.
Hey,
You know, I'd just be assumed, you know, honestly, a recommendation to remove it might be adequate.
Well, it may be tied in, though, to the turnaround. 'Cause
It's
I don't-
possible.
Right now, it's just it's a gravel turnaround,
Exactly.
so I don't know if it's
It's
gonna
not gonna be
stay
gravel
there.
forever.
Correct. And I don't know if it could serve some purpose.
Well, at this
Based on
point,
what happens
you
there.
know, if we're gonna end up putting in a turnaround, and again, we'll address that in a second. I can't guarantee it's in the right location, or for that matter, horizontally or vertically. So if it ends up being, if we end up putting a turnaround in, my guess is that's probably not in the right location. I mean, we could probably design around it, but that seems silly to me.
How to do things after the fact,
Right, exactly.
Right.
So-
is what you're saying.
Right. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'd say there's something else that we'll have to address with the contractor, and I'd suggest he come out in the field with us as well.
Good.
That might be a different visit, but.
Yes.
We'll certainly knuckle that down as well.
Okay.
Now, going on to B, the lack of a manhole structure. Manhole structure is usually in there to assist with maintenance.
Correct.
There's no manhole in there now. So you need to modify the,
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you know, I'm not too concerned about that because the short length of the culvert.
fine, okay. I wanted to hear that from you.
Yeah, the
It's-
culvert
it's-
itself is 20 feet.
Exactly,
And
so it can
You
be
can access it from either end.
plugged out,
Right.
basically.
Exactly.
Okay, right. Okay, very good. That's good. Glad. We could at least get one thing off the agenda. Now, a catch basin off the driveway.
That's the one I
That's
was
what we're
talking
talking
about.
about.
That's the
Right.
one I was talking about.
Exactly, that's the other one, yeah. Okay, so where does that go? Where does that direct flow?
And that ties into, there's a on-site drainage stormwater management system that drains
Right,
to
to
detention
the
basin.
detention
back.
basin, okay.
It's tied into that.
Fine, because I couldn't tell where that was tied into. Okay, detention basin, thank you. Okay. So then we get down to the hammerhead. I went through the planning board documents, talked to the town planner.
Explain for the public what you're talking about, a hammerhead.
Oh,
Sounds
I'm
like a
sorry.
shark, of course, but
Yes, it's a 20 by 40 foot perpendicular area that is used as a turnaround for driveways. You see it in many homes. You see it at some cul-de-sac areas now. They're not, instead of doing the round circle, this is a smaller impervious surface at a cul-de-sac to do a hammerhead.
3-point turn.
Exactly, to turn around. So
Right
it's,
at the bottom of the driveway.
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
It's almost like a T-turn.
That's correct, like a T.
You remember that?
It's before you
Yeah.
get down to the right to the house.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
in fact, it's
Yeah.
right in the old access to the conservation property. There's an old woods road there, that's where it
Right.
is. And that's where it's supposed to be on the plan of record that you folks did in 2013, that you folks, approved. It's not there now. Town planner, town fire chief, both say it should be there. I looked at the variances from the town zoning regulations for the, is it 81Y subdivision that the planning board issued, and it's not a variance either, it's not been varied, so it should be there. We don't know why it wasn't.
I do not know, I was told that the fire department and planning board approved that revision. I put a call in to Billy Clark to discuss it with him when Steve and I first discussed it 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Have not heard from Bill,
I
but we'll,
spoke with him in his office.
yeah, like I say, and I'll do the same. And I'll figure it out. If the contractor has some sort of letter, perhaps,
Blessing?
Maybe he has some, maybe he has some paper.
yeah, maybe.
It's possible.
It's possible. But
So
I'm
far,
told that revision was approved, and I'm basing my
Sure.
limited knowledge on that situation on that.
All right. So would you both go back and see if you can run that to ground? Because it looked
Absolutely.
pretty messy. It just looked like somebody dumped gravel there and kind of spread it out.
Right. Yes, exactly.
It's hard to imagine visually, from what we saw, a fire truck easily turning around in there.
Agreed. Agreed entirely. I don't think it's long enough, frankly. In fact, I know it's not long enough, as it stands presently. That's correct.
And just
Even
to-
as a gravel.
we can have, just so for you, this site visit, we can have that hammerhead staked in the field, so we can know where it's supposed to be.
That would be very helpful.
It would be.
Sure.
I agree, because I want to know. So,
Okay, and then I noticed some invasive Japanese knotweed on the embankment.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mind about some of the other invasives that are down in and among the wetlands, but the knotweed has a tendency to create a lot of seeds. They can easily get onto the roadway or the driveway, get picked up with tires, and spread around the world, frankly. I hate to see it, so that needs to be removed.
okay.
What embankment, where are you?
I am on the west side as the driveway turns down to the east.
Okay.
Just after,
Just before you get down to the house?
that's correct, just after the private driveway
Yeah.
owned by the Deans, I think it is.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Right,
Yep.
okay, just right in there. That needs to be
Okay.
removed from that area. Very, very bad stuff, very bad
and
stuff.
how would you recommend removing that, Steve?
If you want to remove it during the growing season, you dig it out. Just about August, September, you can actually spray it with glyphosate, and it'll take the herbicide into the root.
I
And
mean,
will-
cut it low and then,
I was gonna say, how about cut and paint rather than spray?
Cut and paint is fine too,
Way better than disseminating regarding
Yes.
spray, I think.
yes. We've used cut and paint more so than spray, but for
Let's say-
large areas where it's just a monoculture, the spray works pretty well, just for large areas. This is not a large area.
Right. I
So-
think cut and spray. Cut and
Cut
paint.
and paint would be the right way to do that.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't work, you look at it next year.
But if you cut and paint 3 years in a row,
That's correct.
it's gone.
It's gone. That's correct.
gone.
Good. Good. I'm happy with that. And then as you go down toward the drive and the end of the driveway itself into the yard, some of the eastern slope on that side, I don't know if you noticed it when you came out there, but there were some wattles there.
Yes.
And that slope was still not stable yet. It may need to be seeded again or something like that.
Okay.
All right.
So there's a list of, there's a punch list.
What about going way back to the koi logs that were supposed to be along the driveway?
They were supposed to be placed along the grassed swale as something to stop the flow of water, or to slow down water.
Slow down,
The
yeah.
problem with that is the core logs disintegrate over a couple of years' time. And so what are you left with after 3 years there? That's what I worry about. And you just, with a channel that gets deeper and deeper, you know?
Yeah, so we discussed this actually earlier
Right.
tonight. So Steve and I are gonna look at a grading solution.
Right. Basically, a couple small berms along that grassy swale
Okay.
to slow things down.
Soil berms.
Exactly, soil berms, or actually rock berms work fine too.
Yeah, actually,
We've used those as well.
yep.
There's some, if you head back towards Hillside Street, if you're walking out on the left,
Yes.
there's some great big rocks in there that appear to have been maneuvered around to see if they could stop the flow or slow it down anyway.
Possibly from the adjacent property?
Yes, correct.
Exactly, because the adjacent property, it looks like there's a drain
Correct.
Yes, it does.
coming
right.
out from the adjacent property there.
There is.
There is, yeah.
Looks like it, it is.
I said, wow. You know, one hopes it's only a perimeter drain and not, the drain for the entire impervious surface of the entire house and roof and
Right.
and driveway area, because that would be a huge flow.
Right.
The right time to take a look at it would be during a rain event.
All right, well, you keep an eye on that, just make a note that if you're
Shall
out there,
do.
take a look at
Absolutely.
that as well, okay?
Right.
That's good. All right, any other questions from commissioners?
Just
Looks like you
very
got some-
thorough
yeah.
and well-done report, thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Steve, just what we
Certainly.
needed, just what we
Are there,
needed.
are there abutters or members of the public that have a question or want to make a comment? All right, hearing none, when do you think you'll be able to get us back with some other?
Sooner better than later, I'd say next week.
I can get out there next week if you.
Okay, so we'll get,
Absolutely.
maybe twice, we'll get the contractor once and we'll get started. All right, I'll call you tomorrow and we'll sort that out.
Fine, excellent.
Okay, and before we move on, we need, what,
Will this be ready by July 8th?
We'll be ready by July 8th.
I'd rather wait until the meeting here, just so
Okay.
everyone has the chance to
To
review
hear.
it.
And to hear recommendations.
Exactly,
Yeah, because we'll have to generate a plan
Yeah.
that,
Sure.
and sometimes Steve and I don't agree on everything.
because the other thing I want to say before we move on is, because this is such an egregious variation from what we okayed here as a commission, we need to start thinking about what sort of fine, penalty, something. We've done it in the past, we need to be consistent. And I don't think we can simply say, oh, fix it and that's enough. It's not enough. People knew what they were doing, so it was deliberate, or it was a big mistake, and there should have been oversight. So somebody dropped the ball, and we have to think about somehow letting the public know that when these things happen, there's consequences.
If may add one thing to that. There doesn't appear to be anything malicious about the
About the
About
applicants.
the applicants. And again, and I should
We
say,
can all agree on that.
you might consider it sloppy. And, but the applicant himself, the homeowner, had absolutely zero to do with it. And he just
Sure.
pays the check, and that's all he does. And it expects it to be done, so I would just consider, you guys just be able to consider that when you're discussing that particular situation.
And you may wish to think about a replication ratio as well in that discussion that you may
Right,
have.
I think that's appropriate, because we want to
The
fix it.
applicant
first.
hired a contractor and assumed the contractor to be responsible to follow the plans that he was given.
Exactly. That's what plans are for.
So
That's the
I
whole,
think in
that's the whole
some,
point of a plan.
right,
Yes.
and therefore, in my mind, applicant does bear some responsibility.
Yes. Indeed, they own it.
And it may be, to Judith's point, that other entities in the town deserve some responsibility beyond the Conservation Commission, and there should possibly be some coordinated discussion about that.
Are you talking
Well-
about inspectional services?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good point. We should
Yes,
do
very
a better job coordinating
Yeah.
with the planning board, inspectional services, everybody.
It's true.
More communication is good.
Absolutely.
And this is very helpful tonight. So we'll see you at the July meeting, and you'll have a plan.
What's the July meeting?
No, 13? 11?
Where were you going to be?
Want to kick Claudio around again? Because I will not be in the country in July 11th. Send Claudio again.
No, you won't.
I thought that was very mean-spirited.
There'll
very professional.
there'll certainly be somebody available to,
Good.
besides myself, to handle that meeting.
He'd be out of the country before you.
Very good.
I think there's a backstory there that we'll hear outside.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
thank you
Take
very
care,
much.
guys. Thanks again.
Good night now.
Good night.
Good night.
Oops, sorry.
Next on the agenda is notice of intent, 199 Canton Avenue. Good evening, all. Oops.
We have props.
Yes.
He's good,
Yeah.
very professional.
You know, this is fine, but let's also let the public see it a little bit, so maybe move it just maybe parallel to the wall. That's fine.
Good.
So, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
I'm awed again by you guys and your dedication to doing this the right way. So, thank you. And I'm Mike Walsh from Horticultural Concepts. I'm representing with Nancy Latanzio, who I work with. I'm representing Erica Doherty and her husband Brian.
The homeowners.
Homeowners, yep. And Erica's here tonight. So, thank you very much for meeting with us on the 3rd. And 10 days later, and we've got the drawing. So, I have the notes for the addendum. The first 3 points were of your concern that day were the low point. We wanted to have the low point that I identified to you on site located on a drawing by survey. And we want to have verification of the elevation difference between that low point and the high point and the low point on the wall that is adjacent to Pine Tree Brook. And the third item that we need engineering support for is we wanted drainage calculations to make sure that the infiltration of the drainage area is sufficient for the hard surface that we're proposing. And so we have Bob Hannigan, who's going to be giving us, Bob here, is going to be giving us those numbers and those documentation by Friday of this week. So we don't have it for tonight, but you will have it by Friday. And if you have a meeting this Saturday, you can consider it then. Number 4 in the list is a little bit more complicated. We have the removal of the 2 large Norway maples that are there. They're approximately 60 years old. They're not nearly as old as the oaks that are there, which are probably twice that old, 3 times that old. And so we have a drawing here that shows, well, I want to just introduce the concept. Would you pull out the drawing that has the interstice, the photos of the interstice?
We have in the package, yeah.
We submitted this drawing the other day. Did you
bottom
guys
there.
have a chance to look at it, the planting plan? Probably not.
John's here.
So in this area here,
Oh,
this,
this one, okay, yeah. This one?
Third page. Sorry.
okay, just to kind of reorient everybody, here's the house, property lines, Pine Tree Brook is here,
The one that we got.
wall is here where that red line is, and we have,
So these were the
catching up?
ones that you were originally talking about keeping?
sorry,
Were these the ones
the Norway maples.
that you were originally talking about keeping, or no?
We were originally proposing removing the Norway.
Oh, okay, okay,
There
okay.
are 3 here that two here that we're proposing keeping, along with a pignut hickory.
Okay.
And
I
over
messed
here,
up the
there were a couple-
orientation. Yep,
there were a couple
got it,
here,
got
okay?
it now. Yep.
So what we're proposing here instead of the Norway maples is what is basically a replication of a natural interstice. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but the interstice is a low area, is the transition between a low area, an open area like a lawn in this case, to a higher canopy behind. And so in New England, in Massachusetts, it's natural to find a mix of plants in that area, and those are what we're proposing in this. So we're proposing replicating this kind of approach to the buffer if we take out the Norway maples, which, by the way, if you say we're going to keep, we're going to keep them. But
Hold on one second. Are these just pictures you have that?
yes,
Because
these
it
are
looks
pictures of
really
interstices.
nice.
These are
Looks really
pictures of
nice.
interstices.
It looks really
And
nice,
it's
yeah.
a mix of Amelanchier, Cornus cusa, Cornus florida.
Florida.
These are native laurels, Calmia latifolia,
Right.
and that kind of plant. And so we have all of these plants that we're proposing here in this list. So the symbols relate to the symbols over here. And we're proposing planting a total of 39 trees, plus all of the shrubs and hundreds of perennials. So this is an extensive planting that we're proposing. And it's not going to be open or bare or anything like that. So it's going to be full, and we're really excited about the opportunity to recreate habitat that hasn't been here for hundreds of years, probably.
I thought when we were on the site walk, the idea was to keep the hickory, and that's still the
Yes,
plan,
we're keeping
right?
that. Middle.
Yes.
And to get rid of a whole lot of Norway maples on the south side.
Yes.
But
Here,
to
that's
keep
here.
those two, and a few on the north side, but to keep the 2 big ones.
Yes, because
Is
these
that
are.
correct?
Yes.
But now you're proposing,
That was no, we're staying with the original proposal.
Okay,
This
all
is the
right.
original proposal. You just
All right.
asked for more information on it,
okay.
so we're just filling in the blanks.
Okay, and so the progression, the interstitial progression of the low to high, and this is proposed for the south side or the
Yes.
north
Sure.
side?
South side.
Okay, and we
Got
did
the room
discuss
to do
that.
it here.
And we did discuss that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So and you asked us for more specificity on the types of trees and the sizes, so these aren't going to be little saplings or anything like that. So if you have let's pull these out and have a look at them. You are familiar with the red maples, and so we've got a couple red maples in the background here. That's the canopy, and these are typical plants and they're all native to New England, indigenous to this area. The birch we were talking about last time, you asked me about the caliper size of the birch,
So you were talking about the bunching?
and we're talking about the clump birch. And so we're speccing them at 16 to 18 feet tall, 14 to 16 feet tall, and they have triple stems. So they're not measured by caliper like canopy trees are. So you have to get a sense of the size. They're, like I say, 16 feet tall, and at planting, they're going to be 6 or 8 feet wide. And so down at the base, If you want to compare them to a caliper tree, at the base they're already about 6 inches. So these are big trees. They weigh hundreds of pounds.
How big is the tree in the photo?
This photo is probably 25, I'd say 25 to 30 feet tall. And so they grow quickly. And so, we put in a 16, 18-foot tree, and this is probably typical about 5 years after the planting, 3 to 5
They
years.
grow quickly and they're great and they're beautiful and I love them,
Yeah.
but they are sort of short-lived also. That's the
70,
downside.
60, 70 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
60, 70 years.
Short-lived,
Yeah.
yeah.
But these don't, remember that this heritage birch is not susceptible to the bronze-headed birch borer or the birch leaf miner. So these are pretty tough plants. So they're expected to be around. And these are there in the interstice, and we have mature rubrums, Acer rubrums, the red maples, maturing as these
Beautiful. I
as these
love
are there.
them,
So
yeah.
these are maturing at the same time as these are there, and these are very long-lived trees.
Milton Hospital has 5 in a row, separating
It does,
parts
yeah.
of the parking lot. It's very, very scenic.
It's effective.
I've watched them grow over the last couple of years.
No, they really are beautiful.
They do grow.
The
quite
library
fast.
has a bunch of them too in the parking
well.
lot, yeah.
Let's pull out a couple of these others and have a look. We're also using native Junipers virginiana, eastern red cedar, Amelanchier canadensis, serviceberry. They grow to 25 feet. They're a clump plant also, multi-stem. And this is Sylvatica sourcom. They grow to 50 feet. So they become, and
All on the south side?
yes, all on the south side.
No, these
Oh,
are
I'm
on the
sorry.
north side. Well,
Yeah.
we're using Juniper virginiana on both sides.
Right.
And we're using the Amelanchier more on the north side, and this is on the north side as well. I can refer to the drawing if you'd like.
So they're identified where we're proposing locating them in this planting plan that you requested. And we haven't located the individual herbaceous perennials, but you can see the quantities here. We've got like 400 or 500 of them,
Sure, that's fine,
and they're in masses.
yeah.
So,
So can I just, the way the planting would progress, just to give you a better, if you do remember the oaks, the 2 big oak trees that were on there, and they're located
Here
here
and
and here. So underneath, in front of the oaks, we would have the red buds, which are a lower canopy tree, with the big ones in the background. And then as you progress down here, we have 6 of the big birches, and we have 5 of the big red maples going around the corner there. And then we have some of the junipers in the background, so you can have a bit of an evergreen background. And we will work with the neighbors to make sure that it doesn't look horrible from their side as well. And then coming around here,
Can I
Hold on.
interrupt you for a minute?
yes.
Okay.
You have to adjust the
I
tape
record.
there.
Oh, okay.
See,
Upside down, right?
Yep.
That's-
Tight too.
We're still using this technology, that when you clean out your house, you throw it out, you go, that's 30 years old.
I
or that's
remember when it
60
was
years old.
high-tech.
I know, we're still using it.
okay,
Thank you.
great.
You ready? So, anyway, coming around this corner here, we have the red maples here. This is the existing big hickory, and these are the 2 big existing Norway maples that we're keeping. And here, either side of those will have these smaller canopy serviceberry trees, like a grove. The idea is to make it look like a grove, so it's not like just one tree here or there. And then we have more junipers on this side. We have the big sour gum tree here, and by the patio, we have a dogwood. More junipers here, and some Thuya plicata, which I know you weren't wild about the Thuya plicata, but we use them because they're narrow and they don't take up a lot of room on the sidelines. So we have a mix of
They'll
juniper
survive in the
virginia and the
shade.
Thuya
Okay.
plicata.
And the deer
Okay.
don't like them. They
Okay.
will survive.
And then, just a little bit on the shrub layer, without going into a whole amount of detail, we have, again, all native, native evergreens, mountain laurels and catawba rhododendrons. We have clethra, which if it was an undisturbed, area, this is what would be growing there anyway.
I'll back up for a second. So the American dogwood, what variety are you putting in?
Cornus Florida.
Cornus Florida.
What variety?
A species.
What
Species?
Species.
Yeah.
It's not
So
a-
they're still kind of a little bit susceptible to anthracnose. There's a
Yeah, New England Wildflower Society has recommended planting them now, so I've been planting them for about 5 or 6 years. And
There are anthracnose-resistant varieties that you can get Appalachian Spring as well.
yeah, if you're okay with cultivars, we would want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get your hands on Appalachian Spring, there's
Yeah.
a few vendors here that carry it. They were developed out of University of Tennessee, so
They are pretty.
I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of those. We cultivated them.
Great,
I
great.
can't remember the name of the professor at UT, but if you Google it, you
Don
can get
Shadow,
them.
maybe one of those guys.
I
up there.
can't remember right now.
If it's developed in Tennessee. It's a native question.
Well, as long as it's east of the Mississippi, we accept it. North of the Mason-Dixon
Oh, now
line,
you're
we
spreading it.
accept it.
All right.
And this particular variety.
Well, it's made its way up.
It's taken from high up on a mountain. So it's Eastern Appalachian. It's natural. It was essentially identified to be hardy at that elevation. So I think it'll do well here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it should be
Like-
fine.
yeah.
Norway maples?
John, they didn't tell you, but the Norways that they're keeping, they're going to put a little plaque on each one saying, for John
Saved by-
Cannon.
Your name on it.
Saved by John Cannon. Exactly.
Okay.
Well, we are keeping the biggest one because we believe it's stabilizing
Yeah,
bank, so.
yeah.
Good.
Other shrubs we have are oak leaf hydrangea, a high bush blueberry, inkberry, which is Ilex glabra, it is a native shrub. This is bottlebrush buckeye, which is a great shrub. It gets really big. It's like 12 feet wide, and they're all great pollinator plants, and the summer sweet is a fantastic plant, and it smells good too.
They also produce seeds and flowers, so
Yeah,
they
sure.
support insect life, and so
Right.
this genuinely is an interstice, like a native interstice. It's a mix of all different native plants.
What about a Joe Pye
You
reed?
got kids, right? How old are your kids?
3, 6, and 8.
Blueberries.
Yes.
I grew up going in the woods to get.
Well, I think it looks fine. It looks great. We could go on and on with other suggestions, but I don't know that we need to.
It actually does look very nice.
So so we have, that's the planting. We want to install it quickly, and we're getting into the season now, so if we could move this along, it'd be very appreciated. And I want to just make note that the client is further willing to offer this property for public education, because
Great.
this is nice. There's a school down the street, and if you want to use it as an example of how to develop a property responsibly, we think this is a really good example of how to do that. So,
I agree.
and
Very
service.
nice.
And
We have
service.
one other thing which we neglected to mention before, which is that we would like, I don't know how you feel about deer fence. We would like to install a deer fence, because the deer do come right through here. Are you familiar with what those look like?
Where's the deer trail?
The deer trail is this way,
Kind of
coming
going
in
across
from
the-
Canton Ave over here, and then they go
Right
across the, and they
line.
go all across that bridge,
Yeah.
over into the way back.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could prevent that. That's a fairly large area. That's
Yeah.
at lot 15 on Herrick
Yeah,
Drive.
I don't know that we could allow that.
That we could what, allow a deer fence?
Yeah.
Really? What is your thinking on that?
Well, because on a whole, we are on the side of, letting the animals have migration, and we're always encouraging to make sure fences don't prohibit migration. So it would be a step for us to take.
My comment is that I believe in keeping native, animals, of course. And in this case, there are so many white-tailed deers that they're decimating native habitat. And, I mean, be aware, of course, that the state DCR has allowed a hunt to reduce the deer herd. There's so many in the Blue Hills, which is close to here. So now we're proposing many of these plants, and the deer will browse and kill these. So if we don't...
You've chosen a bunch of them that they will not as well.
We've tried to,
Yes, yes. So as much as possible, and particularly the Thuya plicata, it's like, The other plant that's used a lot is the dark American arborvitae, Occidentalis nigra, and it just gets browsed to the point where you just have to get rid of it. So they will eat a lot of these
The
plants.
more plants that you have in the mix that are not so interesting to the deer, the less interesting the whole property becomes.
That's true.
I'm right up the street from you guys.
Yes, that it's the less interesting the property becomes
Right.
to humans too. So you know, the weight, the burden of the deer browse is so heavy that it's really impacting the other species incredibly.
I think it's less of an issue in this neighborhood than it is closer to the Blue Hills. I'm not
I
so
agree.
crazy
I wouldn't
about,
consider, I just wouldn't consider
fence.
deer fencing to permit it. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I know you're right, but it's not our position to put up fencing. This is an important area. Hopefully the plants will survive. Maybe you'll have to replace some, but it's an experiment.
Do you mind if we spray them to keep the deer off of them? Like with
what?
With what?
There's some things that actually work. You know, liquid fence is a mix of garlic and smelly eggs.
Sure,
and stuff
sure,
like that.
anything natural like that, sure.
Have you ever used that?
Yeah, garlic, citronella. I don't have that much of a problem. I really am very, very close to you guys.
I see them
Don't-
daily. They're out there
Yeah,
daily.
they're closer to the river.
Yeah.
They hang closer to the river. There's no question about that. But, you know, garlic, citronella, pepper mix does have a fair amount of work. It works fairly well. But by the same token, really, the more you mix in things that are not so enticing to them,
Right.
they're less likely to go.
right now, there's really not a lot there that's enticing to them.
No. they don't
It's
eat
Norway
all the
maples.
pieces,
They don't
actually.
browse Norways, unfortunately. So we've got
Rest
to
my
have
case.
Otherwise, John would have a deer.
Well, moving along, I think I could consider okaying this tonight as long as we get that number from Bob Hannigan. That's in.
No, I've got
You want that number?
I want that number, and
Okay.
maybe I can direct the question to Bob, but one of the things we had asked for at the site walk was sort of a comparative analysis for the calculation for stormwater runoff. It's 3,700 square feet. That's a large area.
Talked about pushing it back or putting,
Right.
or
We did
putting
reduce it a
pervious
little.
pavers.
Right, we had three alternatives. One as
Bob,
is.
you want to come forward?
He probably really doesn't.
Just if I may make a comment, it seems like a large area, but in context for the whole 20,000 square feet, it doesn't seem to be that big to me. I mean, it's a relative term.
It is a relative term, I agree with that, but you get a low point there that's, on the Canton Avenue side of the wall. And my concern, Bob, for calculation purposes, that if you look at the low point and then the high point on the wall, there's a potential for pooling there, which I don't think the family wants, the kids want, the mosquitoes would love it, but I don't think you want it. And we had three alternatives. One was to, in fact, Judith, I think it was your suggestion, pull back, especially on the
We have
side.
pulled
Could you
back.
just go over that, then I can see it a little bit on the plan.
I thought so from that plan.
Yeah,
actually,
so you
that
are-
Yeah,
wrote
the
that.
original
I couldn't
one-
tell really, but it kind of looked
Yeah.
relatively a little different.
This, originally, the patio came out here, and so we pulled it back 4 feet all around here and moved it over to here. So we reduced it by 200 square feet
Oh, okay.
here.
I thought it looked a little different.
So 200 square feet altogether reduction?
Yes.
So out of the alternatives we were talking about, one is to pull it back, which you've just addressed. The other one was to use pervious pavers. And then the third was, as designed with the impervious surface. Where's the water going? Do you need a Caltech chamber? I just don't want to see it. I don't think you want to see
No,
pooling.
of course not.
As an object
Right.
lesson, boy, like bonus points if you use previous pavers.
Right, if it's an educational effort. But that might be a cost factor. I don't know what the cost differential is between pervious and impervious.
It's more
Well, either. I
usage.
talked to some folks and they didn't think it was that much of a difference. It is a difference. I think there are
Yes.
more, but I don't think
Yes.
it's huge.
And there is a significant difference in the usability of the surface. We have we have little kids here, and we want to use small wheeled vehicles and skates and things like that. So-
Understood.
So, and obviously, protection takes precedence. So as long as the numbers work, then I think we'd like to go with the hard surface if we may.
Yeah, and we've allowed that consistently. So I think we should allow it here. If the alternative, the 200 square feet is enough to, give us some more drainage.
The soil is very permeable. We've had a very wet spring, and there's been no pooling whatsoever with the current setup.
Okay, we've had a very wet spring.
We've had
That's
a
true.
record wet spring.
Okay.
And so with no pooling at this point, we're not concerned about it as far as mosquitoes or other things like that go. So it seems like we have a natural contour here that's working in our favor.
I mean, I'm willing to just let Bob give us the number, thinking about what a wet
And look at the
spring it is.
the soil, the survey maps to see what type of material is there. Typically on the side of a river, there's more Class A soils that drain well, so I'll take a look at that.
And I think also, John, we often ask the applicant, is it a construction schedule? We don't want to hold you up. It's the same for planting. For planting,
Right.
now we're into the middle of June.
And weed control.
So I think we need to apply the same sort of standard. We don't want to hold them up too much.
This is Tuesday night. Can you have that by Saturday?
That's a good question.
There's not much
Are you
delay.
going to meet on, you're not going to meet on Saturday?
Well, we're trying to, it depends on Arthur.
If not, then
Oh.
on the 8th. of
What's that?
July. Or the 8th of July.
I'll make every effort to have it. And I think that's, when I met with Nancy, that was the idea that you would meet on Saturday. So I'll make every effort to have it by then.
I don't think that's much of a delay.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Good.
Do you want to, where are we going? What's the,
We're going to 34 Apple Lane.
I mean, we can certainly show up there, just for your convenience.
Sure, we can do that.
That would be, I don't think the first one is
If I
going to be
had-
very long.
If I had it Friday, then I could distribute it to the
Right,
members' homes,
right.
That's correct.
as I've done before.
That's correct. I mean, we don't need to see it, because we've been there, we spent considerable time.
Right.
So if you can get it to us, it's a public meeting, and if you want to go to 34 Apple Lane, then it's a public meeting. But that'd be fine, if you can get us that data fast, then I think we can take care of it.
Okay.
And that's just a few days,
Good.
all right?
And if not,
July 8th. A lot of pressure on you, Arthur.
I got it, I'm trying to do some homework on that one right now.
All right. I should ask, are there any abutters or members of the public that wish to ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none, is there anything else? Any other questions, comments, commissioners? Then hopefully we'll see you, or perhaps not see you, on Saturday.
Great.
We'll be
Thank
there.
you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Bob.
I think that's the best one.
Next on the agenda is abbreviated notice of intent, 593 Blue Hill Avenue. Did I didn't get a
We did. We did.
I did read it.
My little one.
Be able to use this as an excuse for not. So, we'll see how it
Looks
works.
like this, John.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know what I did with it. Is it in the packet? I've got mine in my, I read it, but I put mine in my briefcase. Do we have one?
actually,
Bob's
Bob
report.
dropped it off to your home.
Oh, I know, but I left it in my briefcase in my car.
Oh.
Um,
Okay.
Good, thank you. I know what it says,
Thanks,
because I actually did read it closely.
It should be in the folder.
593?
No, I had the, unless you put one there, because I had the 593 folder.
I think I did tonight earlier.
Oh,
when we
okay.
were-
Yes, you're right.
Months? Yes.
Excuse me.
Could Would you introduce yourself, please, Bob?
Good evening, my name is Robert Hannigan, engineer for the applicant, 591, 593 Blue Hill Ave LLC. And after our site visit a week or so ago, I contacted Scott Goddard from Goddard Consulting, and Nicole Hayes went out. I met her out there on the 7th and showed her the area that Judith had concern of, and she did an inventory, and the conclusions are in the letter that area is upland, both with vegetation and soils.
Thank you for doing that so quickly.
So that's in her letter. And then one of the requests on site was to relocate the driveway farther away from Perkins Lane, which I did, is reflected in this plan. It shows this.
I'm sorry, say that again? Farther away from Perkins Lane. We just wanted to save those trees.
Right.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Closer to the proposed house.
Yes, okay.
A greater distance from Perkins Lane, which, in order to save the trees and the berms and things. So I think at that time we decided on 15 feet, so that's what's reflected in the revised plan that I just gave you. And
I'm sorry, what is 15 feet?
It's the distance between
the edge of the
Perkins
driveway
Lane
and the property line.
It allows us to not cut the roots of those big trees, because those big trees will actually hold that berm in place.
Oh, I agree.
So that's reflected in this updated plan dated yesterday.
All right, those were the two issues that we had left as open items. Were there any other issues?
Well, the issue I had was because it wasn't staked, Bob, I really didn't have an opportunity to see exactly where that driveway was going in. So even though Arthur and John were able to kind of walk through, and I maybe got a good sense of where the proposed edges of the driveway would be, it wasn't at all clear to me. So I'm at a disadvantage in terms of evaluating whether this makes sense for preserving the trees. I'd have to look at it again with a clearer sense of where those edges now will be of the driveway.
Is it? Can you just kind of give us a description?
Yeah, I mean,
we all know. I think Judith's concerned is the public doesn't know. We've been there.
Yeah, sure. On site, I think we measured a good 15 feet from the fence line, which is the lot line,
To the driveway.
to where we had proposed the driveway. The original proposal.
Fence line meaning where the rocks were?
Where the fence is.
Oh, there was a fence.
We were standing
There
up
was some rocks,
high.
yeah.
So you get the
yeah,
berm
yeah,
and you get the fence on the
yeah.
other side of it.
Yeah,
So it's about 15 feet from the actual fence into the edge of the driveway.
Originally proposed to be 7 feet, and plus the,
Fence? No.
yes,
And this is the 15 here?
correct.
I'm sorry, Bob, go on.
And plus the representative from the owner was there, and he said that they have every intention of saving those trees. And it benefits them as well as the the neighbors, Haggerty and Adams.
Well, that wasn't exactly the conversation that I was hearing on the sidewalk. I was hearing a sense of, most of this stuff is junk and we should take it down. And in fact, when I looked, there were the catalpa trees, which are native, that should be preserved, and some were smaller and should be attempted to be preserved. There was some other species that were also, worthwhile.
Well, there were two of those trees. The large one is outside the 100-foot buffer, and the smaller one, I've been told they would be willing to move it or replace it with a similar type of tree somewhere on on the property. But,
Yeah, we did make that observation on site that it was that some of these trees were non-jurisdictional.
One of the catalpas, right?
the larger one,
Yeah.
larger diameter,
And
unfortunately.
most of the trees that will come down because of the deck were non-jurisdictional.
Yep.
Because of the deck, I think they all were.
Non-jurisdictional.
Right, because as looking at this, I mean, the deck area is clearly outside of the jurisdiction.
Yeah, most of the, well, all of the rear of the house and most of the grading is beyond the 100-foot buffer.
I'm going to make a suggestion, and it's based upon a procedural point, and don't accuse me of being, form over substance, but I've got a DEP notice that there's like $195 state fee has not been paid. They haven't given a number. We can't vote on this until we get a number. It's a minor point, but having said that, it might give you a chance to go up and look at the stakes. It's staked now, right?
Well, I was going to do it the last 2 days, but it was a little bit, so.
If you can do it, I'm here till Saturday, or, no, I could do it.
Yeah, I can do it, I just.
Okay.
It was just,
Maybe
If you
Ingrid, would
can-
you like to also, if we had time, as a subcommittee, to see it again? Since it seems that Arthur and John got a good look at it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that 15 feet, because I think that'll save the roots of the big trees.
Yep.
And the big trees are sitting right side of it, in the middle of the berm, and I think it's important for the homeowner and the neighbors and everybody to keep those
I'd
trees.
be much more comfortable to see
And
it
it was
again.
even clearer, Judith, when we did the first site walk.
See, and I didn't- I wasn't on
Two
that
of us
one.
did where it was
Okay.
like 15
Because
degrees
you
below
didn't
zero.
have the vegetation
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
Right.
sort of hiding things. It was,
So if you can take a look at it, if you can get the fee paid to the state,
Sure, I
that,
can-
as soon as we get the number, we can vote.
okay.
And if you could do all of that by Saturday or the 8th, we're pushing for, well, it
Well,
depends.
I'm not sure that DEP would give the number
That fast?
that fast, but
Yeah, then.
we'll,
All right,
But by the
We'll see what
next
I can do.
meeting, yeah.
right.
all right. Thank you. I'm not trying to slow you down, that's why I thought, but right now, we've got a procedural obstacle to a vote. Right. Any other questions? Butters, members of the public, comments, suggestions? Hearing none? We'll continue it till, as soon as you can get it done.
Okay.
It's probably going to be the 11th? 11th
July
of July,
11th.
right? I mean, if you could do it, just give Kathy, the
Or
the
the
problem we've got is we've got a 48-hour notice for Saturday. That is for the public meeting. If we do the public meeting on Saturday, we have to give notice 48 hours in advance of that. And we'd have to put you on. So it's probably safer to do it.
Well, maybe put us on, and then we could always
Okay,
continue it.
that's all right.
Continue it again.
All right, can you do that, Kevin? Sure. All right. And so it could be Saturday, the 17th, it could be July 8th, or it could be July 11th. It's really, as soon as you get that done, and if you can give Kathy a heads up or Judith a heads up, then she and
Yes.
Ingrid can go out and take a look at the stakes.
Well, you're saying you don't need to, right? You saw it twice.
Well, I'll be here on Saturday. You're not here on Saturday. I might be able to do it on Friday morning, but I just have to check with what's going on with work.
Okay, we'll
So
be- yeah.
I'm flexible for
What
Saturday,
about
for
the
Friday morning.
landscaping plan that was given to you at the sidewalk?
Didn't have, right, it says landscaping plan, but it doesn't have, what we received, this,
We did ask for it.
didn't have a list of plantings.
Right.
That's right, Bob, you gave us this on, at the sidewalk?
Presley, I think, did that.
Right.
Yeah, we did ask for a
So-
detail,
Yeah, we
didn't
got that on the sidewalk, but there was no list
Yeah.
of plantings.
Is that something you could
if we
add
do-
to that?
I'll speak to the owner and see what Presley can put together.
Okay, perfect. That's good. All right, so we've all got
I
some
think we're
action
looking at
items.
July 11th for this.
Could be. It depends on how fast
Okay.
Bob can move.
I'm on also for 610 Brush Hill Road. Would like to continue
Okay.
that.
So we can move this this one and move to the next agenda item, which is, well, if you're asking for continuance, we'll skip one, we'll go to 7, request for certificate of compliance, 610 Brush Hill Road.
Just continue that till the next meeting, the 11th.
Okay, all right, July 11th.
Okay.
Okay?
Good.
Perfect, thanks,
Thank
Bob.
you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
It's number 6 on the agenda, request for certificate of compliance, Route 93 South on-ramp at exit 3. What are we doing? That's the one that the
That's the one.
U.S.
Right.
District Court
Ruled on.
ruled on it and
That's the
said
one
you
I
must
voted
sign
for.
it and issued. You voted for?
Yes, remember, I voted for it. I said, this makes sense.
Do you need it?
I don't know if John has a copy.
And the town spent how many thousands of dollars to defend this?
A lot.
A lot. We never quite got that number of how much the town spent.
I know. So, do we have an as-built?
We have pictures.
Well, why would, I do appreciate the authority of the federal court that ordered us to issue the permit. However, to the extent that our rules and regulations require an as-built plan stamped by a professional engineer,
We have a professional engineer saying something here
is it at the end?
in the middle, page 3.
Just the Marino.
But we don't have an as-built. There's no plans in.
It is our opinion that the area is sufficiently functional for the intended use as built. That's not the same thing as saying it was built in substantial compliance with the approved plans. And that's an engineer. That's an odd way of saying it.
Yeah, it is.
In fact, I don't think it complies with the regulation which says that there has to be a professional engineer opining that it is built in substantial compliance with the approved plan. Could you ask them, and I'm sure it's not, I'm sure they can do it.
Sure.
But I would feel more in compliance with our state regulatory requirements if we had that. So would you ask them for that? And
Yep, I'll ask them as built in a stamp letter saying it's in compliance.
correct. Substantial compliance with the approved plan. All right, thanks. Then we can continue that until July 11th. Okay. Thanks. This one goes to just give me a minute because I don't want to lose these, and these go to 593. Next on the agenda is number 8, informational, 387 Brook Road. Hey, good evening, all.
Good evening. Good evening. Nick Corcoran and Jack Dawley. Jack is the owner of Northland Residential, which we were before you recently on an ANRAD dealing with the wetlands on the Carberry property. As a condition of the zoning that was approved in May for the redevelopment of the Carberry property, there's a requirement to produce 6 affordable housing units. And the provision wants to provide those units off-site. So the Carberry project is 54 units of age-restricted townhouse units. And the notion would be that 6 affordable units would be produced off-site, and they would be available for young families and young couples. And so the plan has been to acquire and renovate distressed properties. And the property, the first one in question is 374 Brook Road, which,
Oh, is that it?
374, 380.
370, but we had a discussion, we couldn't find 387.
374.
Oh, so we have the wrong number.
Do you know what the
That was his
public,
email.
I think
public
I might have
record
put
said?
that one wrong.
The public
I may have
record
put it
says
wrong in the email.
387 Brook Road.
Okay, so what is the correct number?
374.
374.
All right. This is informational
It's
only?
informational, yeah.
Okay, so I think well said.
So 374 Brook Road is the first of a number of units that Jack will be acquiring and renovating. It is a
Oh, I,
front door photographs, and then a series of photographs step through that describe the property. The property directly abuts the Pine Tree Brook, and it fronts on Brook Road. It's directly across the street from the rear parking lot to the Pierce Middle School.
yeah, I know the house. A friend of mine grew up there.
Yeah, and it's a hoarder situation. The property was in receivership. There's a court order to sell it. And we reached agreement on a purchase and sale. And the notion is that the best thing to do probably is to take it down and replace it. The driveway, abuts the retaining wall to Pine Tree Brook, and then the house. So
A couple of sheets inside of the stapled package, you'll kind of,
yeah, so
Little
if we
hard.
walk through the stapled package, you can see the front door. It's basically invisible because of the two large shrubs in front of it. And then the next is down the driveway, you see the garage door and the entry. And the next one looks from the garage, looking back out to the street. And on the left side is a fence, and that fence sits on top of a retaining wall that goes down to the brook.
little chain link fence, about waist high.
And then the next one you can see more directly down over the fence and down into the brook. I took these pictures just the other day. And so we really wanted to do is come and have a preliminary conversation about the goal of the project and to start to talk about what are the things that we need to be careful about, understanding that you probably want to have a site walk so you really get to see the property. We'll be back later with more formal filings. Jack hasn't taken title to the property yet. We're engaging DeSelle and Burke to work with us to do the site development work. Thought would be that once we get title, that we'd start to get out there and at least take some soil samples. Now, everything's within 25 feet. So I think it's a good idea to get out and let's get some soil samples so we know what's there and we know what kind of detention we might design, what kind of stormwater management to deal with, and how to best protect the retaining wall in the brook. But it is literally hard on the brook, and everything.
I'm sorry,
within
Ned,
the
did you say
jurisdiction.
this will be over 55 housing? or-
No.
No, it's
So
not.
So Carberry, the Carberry
is,
property
okay.
was just rezoned.
Okay.
It's going to allow 54 units of age-restricted townhouses, age 55 and over, on 47 acres. Part of the agreement that was reached with the neighborhood and the town, the planning board, with respect to the zoning, was that normally I would have to provide 10% of affordable, so 6 units of affordable. If they're produced on-site, then that goes from 54 to 60 units. It reduces the density out at the site, and rather than provide age-restricted affordables, the goal really of the Affordable Housing Committee in town is to provide newer housing for young couples and young families, teachers, nurses, firefighters, and the like. And so,
In closer proximity to. municipal
services.
Whether it be, this is on a.
across the street from the middle school, it's on a bus line, it's
Yeah, the bus line is
accessible.
right out in front of it, it's across the street from the middle school, it's supposed to be, in a sense, inclusionary workforce kind of housing.
makes
So the notion is can we identify sort of underutilized and/or in this case, frankly,
Distressed.
distressed, obsolete properties and repurpose them in a productive way. And unfortunately, we found one, but you step on the land and you're completely within the jurisdictional
Yeah, the 100-foot.
realm of the wetlands bylaw anywhere, whether it be wetland, Milton, or Wellesley for that matter.
You may want to take a look at, and I don't know if it's 400 or not, but it was.
It was.
The lot that, it was just built?
Just last year. Right?
We understand from
Within 2
Jim
years.
Burke that there may have been an issue with
There were a lot
trees
of
and-
issues there.
yeah.
And you may want to just take a look at the file,
Yeah.
because in our mind, there were issues that could have easily been avoided.
Right.
And they built it in a little tiny lot, and it just had to get kind of sandwiched in, but they did it.
And we're the same thing, and
Yeah.
we would raise the structure. Do we build on the existing footprint? Do we try to expand the existing footprint? Those are all questions, truthfully, we haven't gotten there. I'm supposed to close on it next week. We have a seller that one's in Korea, one's as far north in New Hampshire as you can be before leaving the country. Another one is
He's
incapable of making any decisions. He was the hoarder.
So you have to provide 6 units, so this will be just
This will be
one
one.
unit? Okay, you're not trying to put 2 units on here or anything, okay.
No, we may buy a situation where we buy some duplexes, fix both, and then sell each as an affordable. There's a net cost to the developer to produce units, and whether you produce them on-site or off, there's an equivalent cost. And so, it's going to be rough and tough, $500,000 to $600,000 to purchase, raise, rebuild, and you sell for $230,000, which is the price that's set by the state for a 4-bedroom house. But it'll be a new house, all new systems. And when you're buying as an affordable, from an affordable perspective, you don't want to be buying somebody else's problems and not have the ability to pay to fix those problems later. So it's the right approach, I think, to addressing the affordable issue while also addressing some of the density issues that were raised from neighbors out at the site. And so that's the plan. And in really sort of those, look at the file and other thoughts as you if you do a site walk this Saturday, neither one of us are able to be there, but it will certainly be worth it to see it.
It is. I know the house well,
Yeah.
just from my childhood.
Right.
But it is worth.
It's worth laying your eyes on it, yeah. I mean, frankly, wetland issues notwithstanding, anything that happens on this parcel is a good thing.
Yes.
You are correct. That is true.
And, and that doesn't mean that the resource concern should be ignored. That's not where they are where they are. Resources are resources and the rules are rules.
And there's no way to save the existing house? I mean, I'm looking at the fan light over the front door, and it looks kind of nice, and no, not feasible?
You save the element. I mean,
You are an optimist.
we've been in it, and they took out. I'm told by the receiver they took out more than 10 full dumpsters worth of stuff.
And there's still 2 cars in the backyard.
There's.
Nope.
Yeah, there's one other
I'm going to
picture.
respectfully say no.
Okay, but
Not even maybe.
look at it one more time, let's see. Historic preservation, sorry.
I've made that
But
commitment.
it must be historic, right, John, if a friend of yours lived there?
Oh, my gosh.
Passes Abraham Lincoln. We're all money.
It was built in 1930. It's approximately 1,500 square feet with 8 rooms.
The 1937 subdivision.
Staying within the footprint, within the realm of reason?
Excuse me, are we or aren't we?
Or are you?
Using the existing
amenable
foundation?
to- Yeah.
Probably something like that. Give or take.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right there.
It's certainly not coming closer
I don't think
to
we're
the-
coming any
Yeah.
closer. I mean, if you look, I can't read the numbers on the little assessor's sheet. I mean, if anything, it might warrant a little more depth from front to rear. So if we, if that's the front yard here, the street is where my index finger is.
Right.
If anything, and the stream is over here,
Right.
if anything, you probably, the living area, you know, you probably would be nice to have,
So that's what, the west side?
Give it, yeah, whatever, I think it's,
is there
I think it's south facing, so,
So, and the
No,
road's this way.
I'm trying to, is there a compass on this thing, a directional? I don't know, which way, which way?
roughly, I think,
I was just thinking about that other
South
property
is
where they took
facing
down
the
that great
street,
big huge tree.
Ingrid.
Right,
I
don't
think it's
take
south
any
facing.
great big huge
South
trees
is
down.
facing the street.
Yeah. The last developer said, oops, that tree? You mean the one you told us not to take down?
Yeah, we haven't started on the architecture. We literally have it under agreement as of 6/5. We're supposed to close next Thursday, excuse me. We learned yesterday that there was actually a fourth sibling, that we've been dealing with 3, one of which is incapable. We learned yesterday that there's a fourth who has died.
Right, that's who I know.
And
the probate wasn't,
it wasn't probated, and
so they have to clear that.
so, I don't know, I mean, Ned and I have been speaking to him since Christmas.
Yeah, well, we've been speaking to the sister out in Korea and the brother up in northern New England, and for a long time there was an attorney representing them in the receivership, but was not charged to do any negotiating with us. So we were kind of talking to them, and then all of a sudden they retained her to close the negotiation on the sale.
Okay, well, thank you for coming and giving
so
us
that's-
the information.
Yeah, I
and,
mean, feel free to go out there if you're so inclined, whether, there's no one there that we know about.
No.
One of the things you might want to think about is that when we got the design for 400, they really were encroaching on the 25-foot non-disturbance zone. And I mean, they had the foundation wall right up next to it. I mean, it was on the line. And so we said, well, how can you dig down and not have it collapse? You're going to have to enter in. So one of the things that they did is they took a garage and they put it into the house. I don't know if they went up at all, but if you look at that house, it's small. And I don't know, I know you've got
Small lots.
four-bedroom requirement?
I don't think we have a bedroom.
No, there's not a bedroom requirement, and then the sale price depends on how many bedrooms you put in.
I mean, it is from the sense of, I'm able to recapture more money if I have more bedrooms from the mass housing formula, so.
Okay. All right. Well, it was just an idea
Yeah,
that they
well-
actually ended up accepting and said, okay, we can put the garage inside the footprint.
Yeah.
And it pulled it that much further back and allowed them to dig a foundation without,
So we just wanted to surface the concept that we're coming. The purpose is what we outlined, and we look forward to working with you with respect to this and other things.
good.
Okay.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for coming in.
Any members of the public have a question?
Are we continuing this for sidewalk, or just when you have time, go by, see the property?
Well, when we have a notice of intent, we probably would do it at that point.
Okay.
I think at this point, it's just, for informational purposes or educational purposes, you can do it.
Okay.
But I don't think we need to do it as part of a public meeting. Yeah, I think at
Okay.
some point we will. All right, thank you both.
Yeah, we'll get you out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That leaves us with 167, number 9 on the agenda is 167 Woodland Road, and I don't see anybody here.
No.
No.
But you probably
Wasn't
do
Bob
wanna
working on that?
Discuss it, that since it was never reported, you might want to issue.
Oh, yes, Bob was very good. When we were at a site walk, if we go back a meeting, when this first came up, I had asked a question as to whether or not the easement was recorded on the adjoining lot. Remember, this was
Right.
subdivided.
Yes.
And we had a real issue about making sure that the easement went with the
Right.
new lot, so that the
For the
old lot
driveway.
would still have a driveway. Because I was concerned that
Yeah.
they'd say, oh, gee, now we need a new driveway that's going to go over the wetlands, which we all knew, well, I knew was there.
Yeah.
So they finally put the wetlands on the map, and then they said, okay, we'll file the easement, and that was actually part of our order of conditions. But did you check, was it an RDA, or was it a notice
No,
of
it
intent?
wasn't more than a condition, I actually was there.
It's here?
second folder there, I mean, no, first one I do. And if you see the condition, nope, it's right there, pulled out.
On the top? Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's what's on the boilerplate.
Yeah, it's 151, 167. It's part of the special conditions?
Yes. And there's also a picture of what they submitted to the commission of the easement on the last page, I believe.
Okay.
And this is the dominant easement on the other property. Okay.
Number 43 says, this order is contingent on the driveway easement plan by Robert E. Hannigan Associates dated August 15, 2016, for the property to be recorded at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. That's important, and we signed this October 28, 2016, as part of the order of conditions. And the plan that was approved, it's a plan by Robert Hannigan, and the easement plan is August 15th, 2016. The order of conditions says it shall be recorded in the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. I asked Bob to check on that. When he was here, and I think the last meeting, he wasn't sure. At our site visit, he told me it has not been recorded. So
That's
he was
right.
very forthright, and he just said, I
right.
checked it, it's not been recorded. So I had asked,
But it was the same owner that the easement, okay. Yeah,
yeah, because the owner had both parcels.
right, right.
So when he subdivided one, our approval was contingent
He
upon.
should have recorded it on his existing property, and he didn't.
Well, no, the easement is on the one that he wants to sell. It's this one. The owner lives
Dolan?
here. And that's the driveway to the house that currently exists. There's no house here. This is the one that we approved.
That's right, this is
But it
where
was
he's building the
approved
house.
contingent upon
His,
using the same driveway.
Right.
Which would require, if he's going to sell this.
with an easement on it to
an
his
easement
house.
To his house. Because otherwise, if we didn't have that requirement, he'd say, oh, now I need to
Now I
have
need a direct
access.
driveway.
And he'd have to
Right.
drive it through the wetlands.
Exactly.
And then, if we had approved it, it's called a limited project. I know you know that. And a limited project which crosses a wetland, we have to go through an alternatives analysis.
Right,
And
right.
they would have taken away our alternative. So anticipating that that's what would happen, the alternative is the easement. And that was at least my motivation for voting as I did. So they haven't recorded it. And as I understand it, they wanted to, I don't know what they wanted to do.
What's the time limit for recording?
10 days after issue.
That's what I thought.
I think it's, condition 31, is it? It has to be recorded in Norfolk within 10 days of issue.
I mean, they could record it now, right? There's no reason why they couldn't record it at any time.
Correct.
But they're supposed to do it.
Enforcement order saying you're not within the order of conditions.
So that's what we should-
Violation of the order.
That's what we should do then, yeah. Yeah.
Because I've had to do it within 10 days.
I don't see the one with the 10 days. 40, the one that I read, 43,
It's a standard boiler.
is one of the standard.
Might have been-
Um,
31.
Here it is, it's 35. This order of conditions shall be recorded at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds within 10 days of receipt. Now, it's possible that you could record the order of conditions, but that's not the same thing as recording the easement.
Right.
So the easement would require a separate recordation. So would you write a note to the applicant and say that our order of conditions is contingent upon that? And they're overdue in recording
Well,
their
isn't it
easement.
actually an enforcement order at this point?
Let's try this first, and then
Yeah.
if we don't get a response, then we can use,
We
fall
can
back
say
on
you're in
enforcement.
violation of the
Okay.
order condition by not
Yeah.
recording it.
Yeah,
Diplomacy start,
I like that. That's good. All right, so
and it's on them if they're not.
Yes.
All right, that's number 9. Anything else on that one? Number 10 is additional business. Any additional business? Yes.
Yes. I spoke with Beth Neville, who is the chair of the 350th anniversary Town of Milton effort. They've got leftover money, and the money was allotted for signage of some sort, and nice, it's a fair amount of money, it's a couple $1,000s, I think, if not more. So I thought of you with regard to putting up some signs. They've got to spend the money or they will lose it. She is happy to reallocate it to Conservation Commission, and I think she has no restrictions with doing so, but she would like to know sort of when and where and what. What they had in mind and what they budgeted for was metal signs embossed with raised letters, not inexpensive. So we were talking about putting signage up, and we were looking at where we were going to find the money, and this may be a source of funds that they would like to put to good use, and if they don't do it sometime soon, I don't know what the date, but it's coming up pretty quickly, they will lose the money. So I just want to put it forth.
Great idea, and you probably have some ideas. I know, Arthur, you were looking for a sign at the high school. Remember coming up from the Parkway? That's
Canton Avenue on the right-hand side just before
no,
the...
not Canton Avenue, coming in from the other side.
From the Parkway.
From the Parkway.
Oh, okay, right.
That to the, remember we were going to do a swap?
Yeah, with the Pine Tree Brook.
Correct.
Right.
That's our
There's a place on
land.
Milton
there.
Street, too, we were talking about?
Yes.
Milton Street,
And
that
another one
place?
is
That little
Pope's
section.
Pond.
Pope's Pond, that's the one I was thinking of. That's
Yeah.
actually what got me
Folks
started
Pond would
talking
be
to her
great.
about.
That would be a great one.
I think whatever we do, we should be consistent with these signs. I think there should be, the sign that we have for the conservation area, and then that's the same sign all over, don't you think?
Design, of course.
Yeah, so it
And
shouldn't
Town
be
of Hanover does the
haphazard.
same thing. They have a design, and, they put Town of Hanover Conservation, and sometimes they put what it is, sometimes they don't. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But what is the mechanism that we execute on this? Because she basically said, we're gonna lose this money,
Is it just a
conservation.
transfer?
First of all, tell us it has a home. If it's the consensus of the Conservation Commission, it willingly
Right,
accepts.
right.
I think that may take care of a deadline.
Right.
And that would give us a window of
Well, and
opportunity.
she wants to make sure that it's for signs.
For
you know?
signage.
Yeah.
Are we not agreed on that?
Oh, absolutely, and you can put
Yeah.
it in the revolving, they can put it in the revolving fund.
But I think you have to vote for that, like, when the warrant committee comes out, and I've never heard of two departments transferring.
Yeah, I just don't know what the
money. I don't
mechanism
know
is,
what
but I
the-
wanted to put it forth.
A counterpart of it is from one commission
I-
transfer money to another one.
So you mean, we need a motion for a resolution to accept the money?
I think you would, and I think the selectmen will have to agree upon
Now,
it.
wait a minute, Milton 350.
That's
Was
private,
that a
isn't it?
town, or was that,
I don't
I
know.
think it was a private organization,
I thought it
wasn't
was too.
Yeah.
Maybe another way to do it is to have them do it. In other words, we would
Well, I
like
guess
to
the
have
first
the
step
money
is-
earmarked for this.
First step was
Keep
for
it
me
out
to
of the-
ask, are we interested? So how about the next step is I call her up and I say, we're definitely interested. What do you know about the mechanism about transferring funds?
See, when John Cronin put that sign together for the corner there across from the Glover School,
Curtis?
Daylily, yeah,
Martha Curtis Connor?
right. How did he do it? How did he get that money for the sign? And, yeah, it would be similar to that.
I'll call John and find out,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Another way is to have us determine what we want for signage and where, and have them pay for it.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to go through all of these other
That's
protocols.
a
That
very
would be
good idea.
so much cleaner.
It's a very
We-
good
We could stretch the money too by buying the supplies and having the kids in the high school woodworking shop
Are the-
make it.
I sat in on a whole day session down at Wildlands Trust, and they
Well, we
said,
talked about that.
stay away from wooden
She was
signs.
very much.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They what, I'm sorry,
Deterioration.
Arthur, what did you say?
Yeah.
Stay away from wooden signs.
Oh.
You want to get a
Yeah.
signage that will last for 25 to 50 years.
This is what she said. She's very much in favor of metal
Yeah.
and stamped.
Porcelain.
Metal stamped and painted or whatever. That's what they were going to do for whatever it is that they were going to do. But she definitely told me, you know, they
Same thing.
budgeted for metal and stamped, so it's, the letters are raised kind of, and then you could put color on top. But those metal signs, like a stop sign, right?
Yeah.
They pretty much last forever. So that is I think what is the vision. That
But I should think that would cost a fortune. Is there a metal shop in
Well, by
the school that could help us?
they might have
Pure
looked. They might.
coincidence,
No.
there's a meeting tomorrow of the East Milton Neighborhood Association. I'm on the board for that. And we're looking at signage for the Railway Historic District, which the town doesn't even know exists. Well, they know it, but they don't do anything about it. And we have a couple of designs and things of that nature, so it'd be very easy to transfer. And we
She was
have
an artist. She
information.
may have gone all the way
That
down
would
this
be
road,
great.
and the fact that they, oh, and she might be able to help you guys, but they might have gone far enough down that road, and they didn't spend the money within whatever they were supposed to do, and now, you know, here they are.
Yeah.
But she did tell me that was the gig. It was stamped metal, and
Here's the Scott's Wood sign, for example. And
Oh, yeah.
it's
oh, that's nice.
it's 30 inches
That's very
wide,
nice.
36 inches high, and it's on
Oh, that's bigger. That's bigger.
non-wooden based.
That's very nice.
Where is Scott's Woods?
That's
Hillside
Hillside
Ave.
Street. Hillside Street is
Hillside
Scott's
Street.
Woods.
And Holland.
Yeah, in Holland.
Starts at the dam, I think the first
Yeah,
line's
and there's the
there.
sign there. I
So
know that
the
sign.
town of Hanover, New Hampshire, the signs are much smaller and far,
Pretty nice.
It is not, yeah, I've seen that
you know,
sign. It is
they're
nice.
less of
Yeah.
a big deal, I
Yeah.
guess.
What's-
Is that expensive? It looks it.
That
Well,
looks
I
very
have
expensive.
I got the manufacturer, his name this morning from the back of it, that's why I was up.
So call
by there.
them, see what
So
they.
I'm gonna check with
see
them,
what
and I
they're
have
gonna-
others from the town of Sandwich, and I have others from
Yeah.
Wildland Trust. So there are plenty of resources, but you wanna have a good one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
You want it to last forever, like a metal
a
one.
long time, exactly right,
Yeah, and if it's consistent and it looked like that, it would be fabulous.
right.
Yeah, the ones in
And
Hanover, New Hampshire are smaller.
sometimes what they
That's
do is
very
they
beautiful.
suggest an oval, 3 feet wide, about 23, 25 inches high, because as people are driving by, there's the physics of vision and being able to take it linearly.
Yeah.
Whereas this is almost like a stop sign. You either you see it and you're gone. Whereas if it's in another format, you
That's
have more
interesting, yeah.
visual
Interesting.
benefit. So there are all types of fascinating aspects to this.
Yeah. So anyway, we might have some
That'd be great.
money available.
But if we could determine what the design would be with her, ideally, where we want to put them,
Yeah, she's
and let
good. I'm
them
sure
pay
she's
for
thought
it.
about that.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah, I don't know if they can do that. That might be their deadline. Their deadline might be that they have to spend money by a certain time.
Let's find out.
So,
As you
yeah.
said,
I'll
how long
give
it
her a
takes to
call.
do.
Yeah,
30th at the end of the fiscal year. So you might want to move quickly.
yeah, I'll give her a
Fiscal
call
year.
tomorrow.
Maybe the end of the fiscal year. Like,
If, yeah, if they were
that's
on a July 1, June 30 fiscal year. Great.
All right, that's the end of our meeting. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Done. Thank you.
Great.